2025 is almost over, and the biggest month of the year, conventionally speaking, for new VR games is upon us. November is here, and it's time to look at what new VR games you can pick up over the next 4 weeks. I've compiled 14 different games that I think are worth your attention. Up first, on the 4th of October, we have the full release of Lies and Rain, a story-driven first-person shooter built from the ground up for VR, set in a dark sci-fi post-apocalyptic world filled with creepy, crawly, robotic threats. If you've been looking for something to scratch that Half-Life Alyx itch, this game will certainly do it, but bear in mind, this is from a smaller indie team and doesn't quite have the budget of the Goliath Valve. If you've been watching all your flat screen game playing friends sinking hours into Battlefield 6 and feeling a little bit left out, maybe wanting something like that in VR, then fear not, because Forefront is launching on the 6th of November and it looks to deliver exactly that. Forefront is an intense VR online multiplayer shooter featuring 32 player large scale battles, land, sea and air vehicles, and immersive tactical combat. I played this in its alpha state and I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to go hands on with the full release, start making some content and start jumping into some lobbies and hopefully not immediately dying to all of you who are way better at first person shooters in VR than I am. I will be busting out my gun stock and trying to play as best as I physically can. Forefront looks set to be one of the biggest games this November. If you've ever wanted to pretend you are Mila Jovovich from the first Resident Evil movie, or perhaps just Dr. Eggman from the most recent Sonic the Hedgehog movie, then Laser Quest is for you. This is a brand new mixed reality experience coming to the Quest platform that fills your real world environments with lasers and challenges you to dance, weave and slink through them without touching anything to complete these challenges. Now, I love the look of this, but if I play it, I'm going to be more like that sergeant guy in Resident Evil who just gets chopped into a million little pieces. I'm glad these aren't real lasers. Also launching on the 6th of November and developed by the incredibly talented husband and wife duo at Purple Yonder, the team behind Little Cities, comes another new mixed reality experience. This is called Little Critters and I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. It looks like the game fills your home environments with strange little amphibian frog creatures and then challenges you to just smack them about, build gadgets to murder them and just fling them all over your room. I'm getting some serious Lemmings vibes, but I won't know for sure until I go hands on with this one. Confession time. I have played lots of VR games. That should come as no surprise, but I've never played the original Rush. This game looks fantastic and I'm not entirely sure how it passed me by. I think we should have more extreme sports VR games, and wingsuiting your way down mountains, through volcanoes and jungles is just a perfect use of VR. Now this is Rush Apex Edition, a brand new upgraded version coming to PSVR2 also on the 6th of November. So now finally I can go hands on with this game that has passed me by for so many years. Up next on the 13th of November we have a brand new VR game from Polyarc that's set inside the universe of Moss. This is Glassbreaker's Champions of Moss. Now let me get this out of the way straight away. I personally am a little bit saddened and disappointed that this isn't just Moss 3. I love Moss 1 and 2 and I would love more of those games. In my opinion, they are still some of the very best VR games you can play to date. Some of the very best VR platformers on the market. But this isn't that game, and this wasn't built necessarily for that market. Instead, Glassbreaker's Champions of Moss is a multiplayer board game style tactical combat game where every move you make matters and the smart positioning of your characters on the board could be the difference between winning and losing. The game was of course developed with multiplayer in mind and supports 1v1, 2v2 or even 2v1 scenarios, but you can play against AI if you don't always have the numbers to fill up a multiplayer lobby. We will always need more room scale VR experiences. I think it's easily one of the best use cases for virtual reality. Moving around your real world space to navigate a believable digital world feels incredibly immersive. If you've never played one of these games before, I would highly recommend Eye of the Temple and T for God as starting points. But if you don't want to play older games and you just want to jump into something new, then on the 13th of November, Hotel Infinity is coming to PSVR2 and the Quest, and it looks to be a very, very good example of room scale VR exploration. Hotel Infinity has players moving around a 2 meter by 2 meter real world play space to navigate their way through a mind-bending, twisted and interconnected hotel filled with puzzles. But don't worry if you are restricted on space, the game also supports other control methods that will allow you to experience this if you don't have room scale. But I would recommend room scale. Also launching on the 13th of November, we have potentially my most highly anticipated new VR game of November, Tracked Shoot to Survive. Now it sounds kind of crazy to say that this is my most anticipated VR game of the month, and it's a month where Deadpool VR is launching and Forefront and so many other fantastic looking VR games, but honestly I am a sucker for VR survival experiences, and I absolutely loved what this team did with the VR port of Green Hell VR. Tracked is the first unique IP from Incuvo that's been built from the ground up for VR, and although it is very similar to Green Hell VR, this is wholly their creation. Players are dropped into the Canadian wilderness after surviving a plane crash and are then tasked with hunting for their own food, surviving by bandaging their own wounds, crafting their own equipment, and doing all the things you would expect to do in a VR survival game. Can't wait to play this one. Love VR survival, and I love what Incuvo did with Green Hell. Really looking forward to seeing if this can stack up as a unique product. Confession time number 2. I have never played a Siberia game. I know what they are. These are typically point and click puzzle adventures that take place from a third-person perspective. But Siberia VR, a remake of the original game, the first game in the franchise, is now a first-person puzzle-solving adventure coming to the Quest platform. And I think I'm going to play my first Siberia game. I know these are beloved, I know the franchise is absolutely adored by so many people, it's just not one that's ever really appealed to me previously. But I love what I'm seeing in this trailer. I love the first person viewpoint, I'm a big fan of VR puzzle games, and I think it's time to jump in and see what all the fuss is about. Siberia is coming to VR for the very first time on the 13th of November. On the 18th of November, potentially the biggest VR game of 2025 launches. Deadpool VR for the Quest platform. Now I have gone hands-on with this game multiple times at this point, and I am very excited for this to be out there in the hands of the public. I think Twisted Pixel have made a fantastic action-adventure experience for VR here with Deadpool VR. It's incredibly frenetic, it's frantic, it is very funny, and it gives a huge amount of agency to the player. You tackle these combat scenarios how you want to. There are so many different combos, options, weapons and movement mechanics that you can string together in unique ways to make this experience feel wholly yours. I don't think this game is going to garner quite the same excitement as something like Batman Arkham Shadow, but I do think it's still going to be a fantastic VR experience for everyone with a Quest. Now I would love to show you some new gameplay of the modes and features being added to Thrill of the Fight 2 when it leaves early access on the 19th of November, but instead all we have is this strange trailer with about 5 seconds of gameplay. There it is, it's gone. You'll never see gameplay ever again. You'll now just see actual human men shouting into microphones looking very sweaty. Thrill of the Fight 2 leaves early access a year after it launched into early access, and finally that means we're getting the single player campaign we have been craving, along with some other quality of life and competitive changes that we don't quite know about yet. At this stage we really just don't know what's being added to the game in its full release version other than the single player campaign, which I am very grateful for. Can't wait to jump back into this one and test that single player campaign, because I just wasn't good enough to play multiplayer. I would get slapped every single time. Let me play against AI. I want to feel at least a little bit strong. I'll be checking this one out soon. Honestly, one of the strangest trailers I've ever seen. Thrill of the Fight 2, full release, November 19th. Oh man, I'm starting to doubt myself now. Is Tracked my most anticipated new VR game of November 2025? Or is it Demeo X Dungeons and Dragons Battle Marked, which is launching on the 20th of November? I'm really not sure. This is the gameplay, the systems, the strategy, all the things we love about Demeo, but wrapped in a semi-traditional Dungeons & Dragons style campaign where you progress through completing side quests, leveling up your characters, getting more cards, and ultimately fighting your way to a boss at the end of the run. I think this is a match made in heaven. I absolutely adore Demeo. Demeo is one of those games where I can just kind of come back to it at any point with a couple of friends, dive straight in, and immediately I'm laughing, I'm having a fantastic time. That wrapped in the lore, the characters, and the world building of Dungeons & Dragons, it's just an absolute no-brainer. Cannot wait to play this. 20th of November can't come soon enough. Last two games now, and both of these are TBC November 2025. So we don't have fixed dates. These ones might slip out of November. Not quite sure at this stage, but right now they're potentially November. The first is Flight Unlimited, a game that aims to be the first traditional, proper, high visual fidelity flight simulation game for the Quest. We only have this small chunk of gameplay to go by. It does look very impressive considering it's running on Quest, but I do see the FPS counter there, and I do see it drop to the 30s, which concerns me somewhat. But if they can get a beautiful looking, full-fledged flight simulator on the Quest platform, I will welcome it with open arms. And finally, the last game in this new November VR Games Roundup video is Made of Sker VR, a brand new Welsh folklore-inspired stealth horror game coming to Quest, PCVR and PSVR2 at some point in November. We don't have a release date as of yet. It's currently sitting with a TBC November, but sometime this month we should see it. Now, I say brand new. This isn't technically true. This is a flat screen game that came out in 2020 that is now being ported to VR. If you actually go back to the start of this channel, my little channel's very existence, you will find a full playthrough of this game back when I just did horror games and I just did horror playthroughs. It's one of the first games I ever played online and uploaded to YouTube, and it's not one I ever expected to come to VR, but I am glad that it is. My only reservations are you can't currently find any VR gameplay. This trailer that was used or has been used to announce the VR version is just the flat screen trailer. All the content you see here is just the flat screen game. There are no new VR interactions or hints to how the game will play in VR or how they've adapted the game to work in VR. So it remains to be seen how much work they've put into this to make it feel like a true VR product. But if they've nailed it, this is a great stealth horror game that I think would work really well in VR. That's everything. Hopefully you've seen some games here that you want to pick up in November. Let me know in the comments below what you'll be picking up, and I'll see you soon for another one. Take care everyone. See you later.